Welcome, dear members of the Whispers of Turkish Stars Circle, to a space where we slow the scrolling, quiet the noise, and listen to the stories that don't need to shout. Our timelines brim with breakfasts, treadmill miles, and bite-sized confessions of the day. The constant beat of uploads has turned presence into routine. Yet every now and then, a different rhythm insists on being heard, a rhythm built not on abundance, but on deliberate scarcity. Today we draw close to that rarer cadence, and trace the quiet power of Ozan Akbaba. If you're drawn to exploring how fame can live with dignity and how authenticity breathes beneath the gloss, make sure you're subscribed to our channel. Your likes are the fuel that keeps our team moving, and the join button is our open door to those who wish to support deeper, more thoughtful narratives. Now, let us step into the considered world that Ozan has constructed. One where stillness is not emptiness, and silence has a voice of its own. From the earliest steps of his career, Ozan resisted the tug to turn life into a running log. While peers steadily fine-tuned their daily diaries, he reached for something rarer, a boundary. No endless cascade of morning routines, no compulsory updates from the backseat of a car, no ritualized confessions just to keep the algorithm warm. He chose intention over volume. And because he chose it consistently, that choice began to shape how we perceive him. The less he spoke online, the more closely we listened when he did. Every post became a moment rather than a habit, a door that opens briefly, revealing warmth and a guarded reserve in the same glance, before closing again. This economy of presence was magnified by the force of a role, Esref Tek and Esref Rüya. The character's trimmed language and distilled confidence showed just how much can be carried in a pause, in the lift of an eyebrow, in a silence that isn't empty but loaded. Viewers felt the authority of someone who can say more with a look than others do with a paragraph. And when Ozan stepped off the set and returned to his spare social patterns, the audience couldn't help but read his choices through that very lens. A clipped caption became an invitation to infer. A single photograph felt like a move on a chessboard, calculated, unsentimental, yet unexpectedly tender in its timing. Let's pause here, Whispers of Turkish Stars family. We've been trained to believe that constant access equals closeness. But what does it do to your heart when a beloved figure shares less? Does that restraint pull you nearer? Or do you sometimes long for the oxygen of daily check-ins, even if they blur into sameness? And when you consider his connection with Sina Mansell, their crackling on-screen rapport and the guarded way they maintained their private sphere, what do you make of that pact? Two people choosing to keep their sanctuary intact in an industry where the walls are always being pressed upon. Does it feel like a promise to each other and to themselves? Tell us how you read it in the comments. We love how this community thinks. The public's fascination with Ozan isn't just about what he gives, it's about the spaces he leaves. Silence invites projection. And so the quiet around him fills with stories, many of them orbiting his bond with Sina Mansell. From the moment they were linked in the public imagination, their combined energy felt grounded and genuine. Yet even under the glare of attention, Ozan keeps the gates closed. He protects his peace and, by extension, hers. He does not offer their life together to the feed. What emerges instead are infrequent, thoughtful glimpses. Passages from a treasured book that he refuses to let be dog-eared by careless hands. This discipline does two things at once. It shelters something sacred from the churn of performance. And it turns each appearance into an occasion. In a culture accustomed to oversharing, that intention reads as fresh air. While others broadcast from sunup to midnight, converting every wardrobe fitting into an episode, Ozan seems to believe in the power of the unseen moment. He trusts that we don't need endless noise to stay connected, that the right word, offered at the right time, can echo longer than 100 daily posts. We saw this belief rendered crystal clear on November 24, Teachers' Day. Social media predictably swelled with tributes, many sincere, many alike, their messages dissolving into a stream of familiar phrases and polished graphics. But when Ozan posted, the room changed. He didn't lean on spectacle or grand gestures. His note, measured, calm, quietly personal, landed like a hand over the heart. It mattered not because of cinematic editing, but because he almost never speaks in that space. So when he does, the question rings instantly, why now? What does this moment mean? His pages are not mere timelines, they feel curated, almost architectural rooms where intention sets the furniture, and silence fills the corners with presence. On that day, people felt as though the composed spirit of SREF Tech had stepped forward to acknowledge the teachers who shape lives with ordinary, daily heroism. Commentators love to discuss the economics of rarity. When something is scarce, its value rises. His followers live inside that economy. Each appearance becomes shared anticipation, a sudden, bright gathering of attention, emotion, and conversation. This wasn't a post that simply accumulated hearts, it opened a dialogue about purpose. Teachers, who often receive politely formulaic acknowledgments, described feeling recognized in a distinctly human way. When Ozan Akbaba chooses to speak on Teachers' Day, it feels like a true salute, one educator wrote, words echoed again and again. Another observed, because he doesn't send messages just to be visible, this one reached us. A third added, it read like a message meant for me, not for the algorithm. What could have been routine became meaningful because it emerged from a pattern of restraint. That is the strength of his approach. Without saturating stories, without daily headcounts of steps and coffees, he has crafted a digital presence defined by resonance rather than volume. The community doesn't relate to him as a constant broadcaster, they meet him as a careful storyteller. With each rare appearance, he reminds us that relevancy need not be loud, and that legacy has more to do with trust than with traffic. Underneath the word scarcity lies another word, trust. It's the trust that an audience will wait, that curiosity can survive without spoon-feeding, that meaning still holds power. When Ozan posted that greeting, he didn't demand attention. He made space for it. People stepped into that space with tales of the classroom. The mentors who opened a door, the rooms where one sentence changed a life, the teachers who saw something in a child before the child saw it themselves. That's what can happen when you speak with intention. The audience arrives bearing their own stories, and the conversation grows larger than the person who started it. This is why his presence feels singular in an age of omnipresence. He makes choices, what to lift into the light, what to keep behind the curtain, how to honor others. That build a narrative shaped by respect. And that respect reads as rare. Even as cameras chase, even as trends push for immediacy, he maintains a cadence that doesn't bend. It's not arrogance. It's stewardship. Of course, none of this exists in a vacuum. The public's ongoing curiosity about his synergy with Sina Munsell feeds the mythos. Their chemistry, forged on screen and witnessed often in carefully protected fragments, fuels endless speculation. Yet each time they are spotted together, that same discipline is evident. No grand declarations, no theater for clicks. A private rhythm, maintained. People sometimes mistake silence for absence. In their case, silence is a fortress, one they walk within together. He guards not only his peace, but hers. She, known for her open warmth and grounded intelligence, mirrors that resolve. They meet the noise not with counter-noise, but with quiet alignment. So when the November 24th message appeared, it felt to many like a reflection of both of them, his composure, her sincerity, their shared belief that not everything must be offered to the feed to be real. It was, in a sense, a moment of their values made visible. As the comments grew, so did the reverberations. The post traveled across platforms, passed along not with the breathless urgency of trend chasing but with a kind of tenderness. Look at this, people said, this feels different. Teachers wrote about the colleagues who inspired them and the students who returned years later with thanks. Parents shared gratitude for mentors who steady their children. Former students revisited the faces of those who changed their trajectories. A small message became a vessel for collective memory. Measured in likes, the post succeeded. Measured in conversation, it did more. It proved that a star can step onto the stage only when there's something worth saying, and still command an audience trained to expect daily performance. It suggested that scarcity, used wisely, isn't a gimmick, it's a promise that when presence arrives, it will carry weight. In the end, this is a masterclass in a different species of celebrity. Ozan shows that gravity is not created by noise, but by intention. He trusts that we can tolerate the space between notes. He trusts that a single meaningful gesture can linger. He trusts that, even in a world sprinting from one clip to the next, a whisper can still fill a room. As we close this chapter on Ozan Akbaba's quiet magnetism, let it remind us of something simple. some of the strongest statements don't need an exclamation point. They endure because they were planted with care. If this reflection resonated with you, we invite you to like this video and share it with others who crave substance over spectacle. Tap subscribe so you don't miss what comes next, and consider hitting join to become part of our inner circle here at Whispers of Turkish Stars, where your support lets us keep crafting the deeper stories. Until we meet again, tend to the quiet, look for the meaning, and remember, we're here, unhurried and attentive, whenever you are.